The world watches in tense silence as the Iran-USA conflict escalates to unprecedented levels, leaving global leaders and citizens alike on edge. Just hours ago, President Donald Trump issued a bold ultimatum to Tehran, demanding immediate compliance or warning of severe consequences, a move that has sent shockwaves through international markets and military circles alike. Experts are calling this one of the most aggressive stances taken by a U.S. leader in recent years, reflecting both a calculated show of force and a moment of high-stakes gamble that could tip the fragile balance of Middle Eastern stability. Iran, however, has flatly rejected the ultimatum, a defiance that has stunned American officials and ignited fears of a full-blown escalation. Reports emerging from the region indicate that Iranian forces have already mobilized strategic assets, and intelligence sources suggest covert operations may already be underway, creating an atmosphere of mounting uncertainty and palpable tension that stretches far beyond the Persian Gulf. Analysts are warning that this standoff could spiral into a broader conflict, with ripple effects reaching Europe, Asia, and global energy markets, raising questions about the resilience of international diplomacy in the face of such bold defiance. The timing of this escalation is particularly striking, coming just as U.S. intelligence officials were briefing on regional vulnerabilities, only to find that Iran's response effectively undermined months of diplomatic maneuvering and strategic planning. Meanwhile, in Washington, insiders describe a scene of extraordinary concern, with senior aides reportedly scrambling to assess contingency plans and military readiness as the clock ticks relentlessly toward a potential confrontation. This tense environment has also sent shockwaves through global financial markets, as investors react to the possibility of disruptions to oil supply lines and trade routes that are critical to the international economy. Crude oil prices have already surged, and stock indexes are showing volatility unseen in recent months, reflecting the real-world consequences of this high-stakes power struggle. Ordinary citizens around the world are feeling the anxiety too, as social media and news outlets amplify every move, every statement, and every countermeasure, creating an information storm that heightens both fear and speculation. The stark reality is that the Iran-USA conflict is no longer a distant geopolitical story. It is a living, breathing crisis with the potential to impact lives, economies, and security on a global scale. As night falls over Tehran and Washington, both capitals are engaged in a tense dance of rhetoric, strategy, and posturing, each side seeking to assert dominance without triggering a chain reaction that could engulf the region in flames. Every decision, every signal, and every message sent or intercepted carries weighty consequences, and the world waits with bated breath to see whether diplomacy can intervene or whether the situation will spiral further into the chaos of war. The implications are clear. The stakes could not be higher, the risks could not be more immediate, and the eyes of the world are fixed on every move made in this fraught, high-stakes showdown between two of the globe's most formidable powers. As the hours unfold, the situation surrounding the Iran-USA conflict grows increasingly perilous, with both nations demonstrating unwavering resolve in ways that leave the world questioning what comes next. Intelligence reports indicate that Iran has not only rejected the ultimatum outright, but has also positioned advanced missile systems and naval units in strategic locations along the Persian Gulf and Strait of Hormuz, signaling readiness for immediate retaliation if provoked. Meanwhile, U.S. military officials are on heightened alert, deploying rapid response forces to critical bases in the region while coordinating with allied nations to reinforce defensive and offensive postures. The stakes could not be higher, and the pressure on decision-makers in Washington is palpable, as any misstep could ignite a confrontation with consequences beyond anything seen in recent memory. Experts warn that the very air over the region is charged with tension, with reconnaissance flights, drone surveillance, and satellite monitoring occurring at an unprecedented scale, each side meticulously tracking the other's movements. Every signal, every shift in posture, and every communication scrutinized for clues of impending action. Civilians in the Middle East are watching nervously as their daily lives are overshadowed by the possibility of sudden strikes, disruptions to critical infrastructure, and the escalating threat of regional destabilization. At the same time, global markets are teetering under the weight of uncertainty, with oil prices continuing to spike, shipping routes under scrutiny, and investors scrambling to hedge against the growing risk of instability. Even international organizations and diplomats, who have long worked quietly behind the scenes, are now forced into the spotlight. issuing statements and appeals for restraint that carry urgency and a sense of desperation. Adding to the tension is the unpredictable nature of the conflict itself. Iran has repeatedly demonstrated unconventional strategies in past confrontations, leaving analysts wary that traditional calculations may not apply, and that the next move could come from unexpected quarters. Within the U.S. administration, sources describe a growing unease as President Trump and his advisors weigh options ranging from intensified sanctions to limited military strikes, each path fraught with potential fallout that could rapidly escalate into full-scale war. The suspense is heightened by reports of cyber operations, covert maneuvers, and intelligence leaks, creating a complex web of actions and counteractions that further complicates an already volatile situation. Every headline, every social media post, every diplomatic cable contributes to a mounting sense of urgency and anxiety, reinforcing the reality that this is no ordinary geopolitical standoff. The world is witnessing a rare and dangerous moment in history, where the decisions of a few individuals could dictate the course of nations, the safety of millions, and the stability of global systems. As night gives way to dawn, the tension does not ease, but rather intensifies, with the potential for sudden escalation lurking in every development. Observers are left questioning whether diplomacy can reclaim control, or if the unfolding drama will inevitably spiral into the chaos of war, leaving uncertainty, fear, and a heightened sense of global fragility as the only constants in this high-stakes confrontation between the United States and Iran. The latest developments in the Iran-USA conflict have taken an even more alarming turn, as reports now confirm that Iran has conducted deep strikes inside Israel, a move that dramatically intensifies the scope and stakes of the crisis. Analysts are describing these operations as highly strategic, targeting key military and infrastructure locations, and signaling Iran's willingness to escalate beyond its borders if provoked, challenging assumptions that the conflict would remain contained. The implications are profound. Israel's defense forces have been put on maximum alert, missile interception systems activated, and emergency protocols deployed, creating a tense and uncertain atmosphere across the region. Global attention is now riveted not only on the Middle East, but also on Washington and Tehran, where both governments face mounting internal and external pressure to act decisively, yet cautiously. President Trump, facing what advisors describe as a moment of mounting panic, has convened a series of emergency meetings with top military leaders and foreign policy experts, exploring options that range from intensified sanctions to targeted strikes, while weighing the enormous risk of triggering a broader war. The public, both domestic and international, is gripped by a mixture of fear and fascination, as social media platforms amplify every report, video, and rumor, and news outlets broadcast live updates on the rapidly evolving situation. Financial markets are reacting in real time, with oil prices surging and stock indices showing extreme volatility, reflecting investor anxiety over potential disruptions to global supply chains and trade networks. Humanitarian concerns are escalating as well, with analysts warning that civilian populations in Iran, Israel, and surrounding countries could face displacement, shortages, and the devastating consequences of military escalation. Meanwhile, intelligence briefings reveal that both sides are engaging in a high-stakes psychological and strategic game, each attempting to outmaneuver the other, convey strength, and avoid miscalculation, a delicate balance that could unravel in an instant. The suspense is nearly unbearable as military assets, reconnaissance, cyber operations, and diplomatic overtures intersect in a volatile and unpredictable environment, leaving the world on edge. Observers note that the Iran-USA conflict has entered a phase where traditional metrics of power and influence are being tested, with unconventional tactics, asymmetric threats, and rapid response capabilities shaping the next critical moves. Experts caution that any further escalation could rapidly draw neighboring nations into the fray, destabilize regional alliances, and have cascading effects across Europe, Asia, and beyond. As night falls once again over the region, the global community watches and waits, aware that each hour could bring new developments with far-reaching consequences. It is a moment that underscores the fragility of international order and the terrifying reality of modern conflict, where technology, strategy, and political brinkmanship collide with life and death stakes. For viewers at home, understanding the full scope and gravity of these developments is essential, and staying informed is more critical than ever. If you are benefiting from our topics, please subscribe, like, and turn on the bell notification so you can see our new videos early.